With Hytale releasing just around the corner, you've probably asked yourself if your garbonkadonk PC can even run it. I'm Hayes, and in this video, I'll be answering your question as we just received the minimal and recommended hardware specs, and it's not as bad as you think. Let's dive in to see if you'll be able to play Hytale with the rest of us on opening day. To get things started, Hytale released a blog post that helps break down everyone's questions. They start by saying, as we get closer to launch, many players have asked what kind of hardware Hytale requires. Our goal is clear. Make the game broadly accessible while still supporting the scale, simulation, and modability that defines Hytale. Remember that we are still working on performance improvements. They continue with this post outlines what we've tested so far, why certain hardware matters, and the current minimal, recommended, and recording streamer system requirements. These requirements are based on real in-house benchmarks and will continue to evolve as we optimize the game. You can scroll down to the recommended requirements for a TLDR. Hytale is not a simple game for computers, so we try to explain it as much as possible. We are actively working to bring Hytale to Linux and Macs as soon as possible as well. For your system requirements, Hytale requires both a 64-bit processor and operating system. For minimal, they're targeting 30 FPS at 1080p. For the recommended, they're shooting for 60 FPS at 1080p, and the recorder streaming settings are for stable frame rate with high-quality video capture and streaming at 1440p. Now, these categories reflect actual in-house testing across low-end integrated GPUs, mid-range laptops, and high-end recording setups. Your bare minimal requirements for 1080p at 30 FPS is going to be the following. You're going to need Windows 10 and an Intel Core i5 7500 or AMD Ryzen 3 1200 CPU. For your RAM, if you're playing single player with dedicated graphics, you're going to be around 8 gigabytes. If you're playing single player with integrated graphics, you're going to need about 12 gigabytes. Multiplayer only is only going to require about 8 gigabytes. Now, as far as your graphics card goes, if you have an integrated GPU, you're going to be looking at that Intel Graphics 620 range or the AMD Radeon Vega 3. If you have a dedicated GPU, you're in the GTX 900 series, Radeon 400 series, or the Intel Arc A series. They do add a depreciation notice that support for Vulkan 1.3 will be required for the future, so some of these are going to change. When it comes to storage across the board, they're recommending 20 gigabytes of free space for long-term play. As far as networks go, 2 megabytes per second connection for multiplayer on a minimal setting is required. When it comes to the recommended specs to play the game at 1080p at 60 FPS, not much is going to be changing for you. You'll see that the CPU requirement changes a little bit. The biggest change is going to be your RAM. This game requires 16 gigabytes of RAM to play well as the recommended setting. As far as storage requirements for the game, Hytale procedurally generates a world that can, in practice, grow without a fixed limit. Based on extensive playtime and exploration mode, we found these numbers to be representative of a normal playthrough. Keep in mind, the more you explore or customize and build with a wide variety of blocks, the more memory and storage the game will require. The installation size of the game is about 8 gigabytes, and overall they recommend at least 10 gigabytes of available storage, with 20 being the safe bet to enjoy the game for a long duration. So when it comes to the network requirements, Hytale has to be downloaded from the internet as they don't offer physical sales. Once downloaded, you can always play in single player and offline mode. For multiplayer, the network requirements mostly depend on your view distance. You will download a lot more data than uploading. Your upload speed is generally irrelevant and very small. We have tested in exploration mode servers and created a worst case scenario by traveling at 1.5 times the speed to keep loading new world data faster than a player ever could. Here's a quick breakdown of the different view distances and what they recommend or require. They go on to say, keep in mind, these numbers are worst case scenarios. If you play normally in exploration mode server while mining, crafting, and exploring, you will not consume nearly as much bandwidth and should even have playable experiences on 1 megabyte per second connections at lower view distances, especially playing minigames, such as Skywars, Bed Wars, or other minigames with small maps that'll result in very low bandwidth usage. Now, this segment is really only for the people that want to make Hytale content to upload to YouTube or for streamers on Twitch or YouTube. This is for the recording streamer requirements for 1440p at 60 frames per second. You'll be able to see it on the screen now. Now, if you're someone that likes to just play single player, unfortunately, you're going to need a better PC than people that like to play multiplayer. Single player is the most demanding scenario because your machine runs the full game client, rendering UI and gameplay, and the entire simulation on the servers, NPCs, world generation and updates, and networking layers. This increases CPU and RAM usage compared to multiplayer. Generally, the server or single player require more CPU performance due to NPCs, world generation, and voxel logic running on your computer. When it comes to playing online on a server or with your friends, this is where you come into luck. Multiplayer, the servers run remotely. Your PC only handles the graphics and the gameplay, which typically results in better performance on the same hardware. If you intend to play only multiplayer or minigames, you'll be able to use less than the requirements listed below. There are two things that are really going to impact your gameplay experience, that being mods and view distance. Mods will increase requirement. Large content packs, complex server logic, or extended view distances can push both the CPU and the GPU harder than in baseline game. And the most impactful performance option is called view distance. This is the radius around the player that is visible, loaded, and simulated. The major problem of view distance is that every time you double the view distance, example 192 to 384, you quadruple the amount of world around you. That means you have 4 times as many blocks and NPCs, which are causing your computer to work harder. We recommend you experience Hytale with a view distance of 384 blocks. We designed Orbis around this distance, but if that is not enough for you, you may want to spend some time dialing in the idea of upgrading your PC. So what should you expect next? The Hytale team says they're still working on the system requirements for Mac and Linux, which they intend to support the older Macs and the newer Macs as well. We've also received a lot of inquiries about the Steam Deck, and we lack the ability to test that properly right now. We also don't plan to launch on Steam until we can determine our ability to comply with Steam's policies. On paper, it should work with a Steam Deck, but we also lack good input mappings and small display UI, so we will once again ask for some patience. These requirements will be updated as we apply optimizations through early access. Our focus is to make Hytale run well across a wide variety of systems without compromising scale or modability. If you have a computer that doesn't run single player very well, you should join a friend and play with them on their single player world, or play on online servers as they show better performance. So there you go, your garbonkadonk potato PC can probably play Hytale. Honestly, the specs required aren't that insane, and really any big box store selling a computer probably has a computer better than the specs needed. If you found this video helpful at all, please give it a like. And if you think anyone else could benefit from this video as well, please go ahead and share it. Feel free to leave a comment down below about your trash PC, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more Hytale content. Until next time, feel free to leave a comment.